Hello, I'm Huples Cat. Welcome to this video. Thanks for watching. It's going to show you JP Morgan's attitude towards climate change and how they're telling their investors to deal with it. It's quite fascinating stuff. Going through this video, you might come to the conclusion that prepping is a total waste of time. I disagree. So this will be a deep dive into this JP Morgan report, teaching climate intuition to its richer clients. I am not one of them. It's going to seek to build climate intuition, basically how to make and protect money in a rapidly changing climate. The proactive approach here means safeguarding investments, not specifically dealing with climate instability. As ever in the world, your own internal biases come through, your own professional experiences come through. If you note the last sentence here, what I would have written here instead is, those who adapt might thrive, while hundreds of millions will suffer. Strangely, climate change denial is strong globally, and the United States of America is a world leader in denying science, or, as I'd put it, denying reality. As I hope everybody knows by now, global warming or climate change is often seen as a challenge to our grandchildren. As we will see looking at this report, this is not actually the only generation at severe risk from climate change. Think of the children! Climate change is also seen as a threat to our children, but when they become elderly, this is also not actually the only generation at severe risk. There's many examples of science being reported accurately in the news, but this one is actually interesting because it's from 2019 and from Fox News, not noted these days to cover reality. And the figures given are for 2018-2019. But in 2025, how many die in fire, floods, windstorms and resulting car accidents in North America? It's not 250,000 obviously, but it's large and it's increasing. But globally, how many are dying every year from the direct and indirect effects of heating of the planet? I agree that the research in 2019 is a conservative estimate. I'd argue that many current global war casualties actually stem from dwindling water and food sources, forced migration, and attempt by the powerful to control fossil fuel sources. The 2016 study, wrongly in my view, gives the 2050 date as a benchmark. Poverty and suffering and casualties will exceed 100 million long before 2050, in my opinion. And it's not just my opinion, science kind of agrees with me here. In 2024, President Biden set aside $4.3 billion for dealing with this issue. This was woefully inadequate, but I guess better than nothing. Stating we have until 2030 to stop increasing carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere discounted the amounts already here. Now politics got involved and President Trump in 2025 stopped the funding of green initiatives and climate change policy. But this nice little clock that they were ticking down may have already expired, as we shall see when we look at JP Morgan's briefing. Now many people have said extreme prepping is useless, and many prepper channels have stated it is not. Clearly, when towns in Ontario are putting up have a 72-hour kit signs everywhere, there probably is a need to evacuate, and it's probably accelerating on a yearly basis. Certainly it would take a special type of attitude to look at the news and not see that there are more wildfires this year and last year and the year before than there's ever been. And there's more people being affected in terms of having to be evacuated. Now I never watched this guy's videos, but attacking EVs is a common thing these days and gets you views. But why buy a Tesla when other companies have EVs and PHEVs specifically that are better and cheaper? I really don't understand this attitude. This big channel and many others are also constantly telling us it's over, it's done. They do it for clicks and money, but in fact they may be right. Just not for the reasons they love to highlight over and over and over, year after year after year. Why are people still watching them? For Kitty and myself, prepping means a lifestyle choice, enjoying the earth while limiting our damage to it. We're not perfect here, but we've prepped for most issues that actually could happen. The JP Morgan briefing helpfully showed their clients some graphs to show them that climate change is real. But reality escapes some who attack weather radar stations. I hope if you're watching this video you actually understand the science, or at a minimum are open to seeing our Earth's climate as increasingly unstable and hostile. The reasons why are important if we can fix the reasons. If we no longer can fix the reasons, it becomes a different issue. This is not opinion or speculation. It's scientific fact. Nothing here is untrue, unlikely, or invented. This is the world we are actively creating. Adapt or else. Maybe adaptation for some of these is not possible for our species, but certainly individuals can, and they really should, be adapting locally as much as they can. I would submit to you that most preppers are not. The trends most likely to be followed are apocalyptic, and in the short term. Unfortunately, these graphs are very common and they're interpretive, but the bottom line is we shouldn't actually be showing them. We should be showing the trend that is the most likely to be followed, and that one is apocalyptic, and in the very near term. It's not a sudden issue in 2050 or 2101. It's an issue today, and it's going to increase daily. Yes, 2024 was the hottest year on record, as was 2023. Maybe 2025 is going to be as well, despite hopeful forecasts of a slight drop. Now, whatever year you use to start the Industrial Revolution on whatever time period you use, it is clear that the Earth's temperature has at least got 1 centigrade degree hotter, and by a speed never seen in Earth's history. And this rise is increasing. It's not caused by the reasons deniers claim, but by you and me directly and indirectly burning oil, gas, wood, and by you and me directly or indirectly removing forests. Now, you might have heard about climate tipping points. Quite fascinating. 9 of these were identified. Each one of these, if it tips, could end habitable human life on this planet, or at least end human civilization as we know it if they're triggered. Did you know that with a huge economic effort globally for many decades now, we've actually tipped 7 of the 9? Tipping one would likely be civilization suicide. It's grim. Now, JP Morgan states that we are actually doing something right now to mitigate it, and that's quite correct. But JP Morgan also states that current government policies will cause at least an increase of 2.7 centigrade of warming, no matter what the individuals do. Net zero, when it was in effect, saw absolutely no decrease in carbon dioxide amount, but actually saw an ongoing increase as the short-term economy rules over the long-term survival of humanity. I'm going to show you a few of many examples of this, or as I prefer to call them, warning signs of a clear and absolutely present danger to you and me. But how bad actually would 2.7 centigrades rise be? It doesn't really sound a huge amount. Well, it is 4.86 Fahrenheit for those Americans, so 20% more water vapor in our atmosphere over time. So more floods, more snowstorms, more ice storms, more droughts and forest fires. We're already seeing these changes in our climate. Between July the 6th to the 12th, we had these occur.
Relentless rain leading parts of the East Coast a waterlogged mess. Overnight in North Carolina, flash floods submerged entire neighborhoods.
Look at that.
Similar scenes to the north in New Jersey and Massachusetts, where this morning's commute descended into chaos after sections of the critical I-93 interstate washed out. Some drivers rescued from nearby roads.
My car started filling up with water all the way up to the seat inside. There were 3 officers that I had to climb through the window, and he gave me a piggyback.
All this while the village of Ruidoso, New Mexico is now focused on cleaning up after flash floods damaged hundreds of homes. This sped up surveillance video showing how quickly waters rose in the store. And tonight, harrowing accounts of survival.
They were watching the water come up. They thought they were going to die. We thought they were going to die.
Jason Fulcher says a wall of water tore through the trailer park. His 7-year-old daughter and 13-year-old son were trapped inside their home.
They said that the bed was floating, and so they got on the mattress of the bed that was floating up, and they were holding on to the ceiling fan. There's only, maybe 2 foot before they were out of room and they would have drowned.
And flooding remains a concern on the East Coast. Tonight, flood watches are impacting 9 million Americans from North Carolina to Maryland.
Yet no one in the United States media or government really seems to be asking why they're occurring. Even Russia had floods. Large areas of Italy saw storms and flooding.
A 63-year-old woman was killed by a falling tree on Sunday in the town of Robiceto con Induno, west of Milan, as a powerful storm swept through northern Italy following days of extreme heat. Local firefighters said the victim had been returning from a walk with 2 others who were injured and have been hospitalized. Authorities said they have responded to around 50 emergency calls so far, with another 37 still pending. Most incidents involved fallen trees, flooded basements and taverns, as well as advertising billboards torn down by strong winds. The storm also brought heavy rain to other regions. Parts of Tuscany also experienced falling trees.
Poland and Central Europe also saw intense storms and flooding over this period.
Intense storms are rolling through Poland. 4 people have already been reported injured in the Subcarpathian region. On Monday, in the southeastern Polish region, local firefighter brigades were forced to intervene close to 1,200 times. The storms pose a threat as they are powerful enough to knock down trees that can damage power lines, roof structures, and block roads. The risk of flooding is also increased due to the intensified rainfall. One of the injured people was admitted to a hospital after a tree fell on the roof of their home, causing the person to suffer a head injury. Another one was electrocuted after a tree fell onto power lines.
China and Nepal also saw flooding. I would point out that I only took videos and news reports from incidents that happened between the 6th and the 12th of July 2025. I specifically excluded the events before and after that time period, but they were there. I was not cherry picking.
Then came the second wave. Relentless rain returned only days later, re-flooding parts of the city that had just begun to breathe. In total, over 80,000 residents were forced to flee, 6 lives lost in Guizhou, and at least 9 across central and southern China. Direct damage in Rongjiang alone is already estimated at 4.8 million yuan, but broader losses could reach into the billions.
With a hot average global temperature, more snow and ice melts and more lakes and seas and oceans evaporate. 20% more rain, snow and ice to fall. Add in the wind and oceanic current changes and it seems now is the start of the climate becoming actually inhospitable to human and other life. JP Morgan kindly shows us why global land and ocean temperatures are rising. The average is what we're talking about when we talk about 2.7 centigrade rise. Some places will be cooler, some places will be a lot hotter. The heating we've already achieved has moved the curve towards more intense and more frequent heat waves. These effects will also produce more atmospheric water vapor, causing more intense and frequent floods. Oh, and yeah, water vapor itself is a powerful atmospheric heat entrapper, so it's all much worse than your news or your politicians and your favourite preppers claim. JP Morgan mentioned static thinking, and I'm glad they did. They all have static thinking. Outliers are outliers, not trends. Anything like it in the past? Oh, ignore this one despite the now increased intensity and frequency. JP Morgan states making money from this will get harder. I would agree with that. I'd also add civilization's ability to actually survive is going to be harder. JP Morgan gives us this trends graph to read, but where are we likely to go? I would point out, apart from the magical thinking one where everything's fixed this year, there will be a massive drop in all of the atmospheric CO2 production once civilization fails and stops. And if we keep going, it will fail. And even if we don't keep going the way we're going, it will probably fail. If 2025 is the hottest year on record, it is safe to say you better prep hard and smart for a temporary SHTF and likely for an ongoing one before 2030. That's not that far away, less than 4 years. For various scientific reasons, 2025 should be hot, but it should not be as hot as 2024. We've already achieved an increase of 1.5 centigrade of heating since the start of the industrial age in 1850, which is more of a reasonable date to pick than the dates that a lot of people use. So we're up by 2.7 Fahrenheit. This means that we have about 10% more water vapour in our atmosphere. Now, if you use the 1950 trends, that shows that we will achieve the 1.5 centigrade rise by around the 2040s. In the early 2020s, we already achieved that. The predictions are mainly too optimistic. The further back you go to make your predictions of the future, the less likely those predictions are to be accurate, and the more likely those predictions are to be far too optimistic. This is why defunding climate change science is probably a really bad move. Now, I just want to give you a little bit of information on the plus 1.5 centigrade. It was a completely arbitrary figure that science just came up with because they figured anything above that would be terrible. Now what they're arguing about is how you can define it's being breached. Okay, but for me it's the year where it's over 1.5 centigrade. Now if you use definition 3, you can absolutely ignore this for several decades or more. To say that you have to have a 20-year average that's over 1.5 centigrade to actually claim that's been breached really ignores common sense. And how on earth would it drop anyway unless a meteor hits us or we have a nuclear war? So for me, use definition 1 for your prepping calculations. If I use definition 3, I'd be 90 before I have to actually make a serious response. So is it hopeless? I'd say it is. Both 1 and 2 have not happened. They both seem very unlikely. 2 is not even possible in 2025. We have no carbon capture technology of any reasonable amount or any reasonable cost. Using liquid hydrogen, etc., all of those things are flim-flam and aren't actually going to work and aren't going to fix the problem. JP Morgan is saying here that global massive reductions in fossil fuel burning are required, or you need to plan for a long-term period of severe climate problem. I would argue you need to plan for both. You need to plan for large and increasing amounts of government response to climate issues in various ways, but you also need to plan for actuality of events affecting you directly and indirectly. Yes, invest your money in a Miami resort now. Well, no. It will inevitably flood and sink below the ocean surface in a very few years' time. Not by 2050 or 2100, but probably in the early part of 2030. The bank has accidentally shown everybody that the future is going to be very dramatic. It's shown that between now and 2030 there's going to be massive challenges. It's shown that the years after 2030 are going to be horrific. Whatever you do, we, as Canada's best prepping channels, say we are fact. However, mitigating your damage is still required for various reasons which I'm not going to go into. And prepping for climate change locally is going to be absolutely fundamentally critical, both for humanity's survival and for your personal survival. Do not reject scientific reality. Climate change is not being caused by greedy scientists who are actually pouring stuff into the atmosphere to make it hotter. It's caused by you and me. Our action. It's caused by the entire economic system. You do not need to look for weird conspiracy theories. Atmospheric radar is not directing and causing storms to occur. It's human-caused climate change. Thanks for watching. Next one in this series will highlight this report by actuaries. This is the insurance view of climate change, and it is interesting as JP Morgan's financial view. Thanks for watching. It is looking grim over the next few years. Not in the next few decades, but the next few years, the next 3 or 4 years are looking bad. Get ready, get prepped, make sensible preparations. Don't go into fantasy land. You're not Rambo. Toughen up your local systems, toughen up your local community to be able to respond and mitigate the effects of climate change. It will serve you well. Toodles. This has been a 2025 Fat Cat production.